Many people who choose not to get married place a strong psychological value on autonomy. For them, personal freedom is not simply a preference but a core part of their identity. They often experience a deep sense of fulfillment from making independent decisions about their time, goals, and relationships, without feeling the need to formally bind their lives to another person. This desire for autonomy is usually reflective, intentional, and rooted in self-awareness rather than avoidance. These individuals often invest heavily in understanding who they are outside of traditional social roles. Marriage, in many cultures, comes with predefined expectations that can feel restrictive to those who prioritize self-definition. Psychologically, they may resist labels that feel externally imposed, preferring to construct a life narrative that aligns with their inner values rather than societal scripts. A strong internal locus of control is common among people who do not wish to marry. They tend to believe that life outcomes depend primarily on their own actions rather than institutions or social structures. This mindset can lead them to trust themselves more than external commitments, reinforcing the idea that happiness and stability come from personal effort rather than marital status. Personal growth often takes precedence over long-term romantic fusion. Many of these individuals view life as an evolving journey in which they continuously redefine themselves. They may fear that marriage could psychologically anchor them to a fixed version of themselves, limiting exploration, reinvention, or change over time. For some, independence is tied to emotional safety. Maintaining personal space allows them to regulate emotions more effectively and avoid feeling overwhelmed. This does not imply emotional coldness, but rather a preference for self-regulation and clear psychological boundaries. Their sense of self is often multifaceted and not centered on romantic partnership. Career, creativity, friendships, learning, and personal projects may form the psychological backbone of their identity. Marriage is seen as optional rather than essential within this broader framework of meaning. People who value autonomy highly may also be sensitive to power dynamics. Psychologically, they may fear subtle imbalances that can emerge in long-term legal or social contracts. Choosing not to marry can be a way of preserving perceived equality and personal agency within relationships. This preference is often misunderstood as selfishness, yet internally it is experienced as authenticity. These individuals frequently feel that staying true to themselves is a moral responsibility. Acting against their internal compass by marrying out of pressure could create psychological distress or resentment. Autonomy-focused individuals often cultivate strong self-trust. They rely on their ability to adapt, cope, and make decisions independently. This self-trust reduces the perceived psychological need for marriage as a stabilizing force in life. Ultimately, the psychology of autonomy in those who avoid marriage reflects a deep commitment to living consciously. Their choice is less about rejecting relationships and more about protecting a form of selfhood that feels essential to their psychological well-being. Past experiences play a significant role in shaping attitudes toward marriage. People who choose not to marry often have observed relationships that left a strong psychological impression, particularly those marked by conflict, loss, or emotional pain. These observations can quietly influence beliefs about what marriage represents. Growing up in environments where marriage was associated with instability can lead to internalized caution. Even if these individuals are capable of love and intimacy, their psychological models of marriage may be linked to stress, sacrifice, or emotional exhaustion rather than security. Some individuals have personally experienced long-term relationships that ended painfully. Psychologically, the emotional cost of those experiences may lead them to question the value of formal commitment. Avoiding marriage becomes a way to protect emotional resources and prevent repetition of past suffering. Observational learning extends beyond family and into society. Witnessing friends go through difficult divorces or remain in unhappy marriages can reinforce skepticism. These experiences shape cognitive associations, causing marriage to be unconsciously linked with loss of freedom or emotional stagnation. For others, early caregiving roles can influence their decision. People who were forced to grow up quickly or emotionally support others may resist marriage because it symbolizes further obligation. Psychologically, they may crave a life with fewer imposed responsibilities. Trust issues can also emerge from past relational wounds. While not universal, some individuals associate marriage with vulnerability that feels unsafe. Their choice not to marry may reflect a protective adaptation rather than a lack of emotional depth. In some cases, people have seen marriage used as a solution to existing problems, only to watch those problems intensify. This can foster a belief that marriage does not heal relational issues and may even magnify them, shaping a cautious psychological stance. These individuals often engage in reflective processing of their experiences. Rather than blindly accepting cultural ideals, they analyze evidence from their own lives. Their psychological approach is empirical, grounded in observation rather than romantic idealization. Importantly, their choice is not always rooted in fear. It can stem from clarity. Understanding what has caused pain in the past allows them to make informed decisions about what structures they want or do not want in their future. Through the lens of experience, choosing not to marry can be seen as an adaptive psychological response. It represents learning, meaning-making, and a conscious effort to create a life aligned with lessons drawn from reality. People who do not want to get married often have emotional needs that differ from traditional expectations. They may value emotional connection without permanent fusion, preferring relationships that allow intimacy while preserving individuality. This reflects a psychological model of closeness without enmeshment. Their attachment style is often more secure or consciously managed. Many are comfortable with intimacy but do not equate emotional safety with permanence. They believe that commitment can exist without legal or social formalization. Some individuals experience emotional fulfillment through a wider network rather than a single partner. Friendships, chosen family, and community play a central psychological role. Marriage, which prioritizes one relationship above all others, may feel limiting to this emotional ecosystem. They may also possess a high tolerance for solitude. Being alone does not automatically trigger loneliness, allowing them to meet emotional needs internally. This psychological self-sufficiency reduces reliance on marriage as a source of emotional regulation. For some, emotional intensity is something to be moderated. They may prefer relationships that ebb and flow naturally rather than those bound by permanent expectations. This allows them to engage emotionally without feeling trapped by future projections. Their model of love is often process-oriented rather than outcome-oriented. They value the quality of connection in the present moment more than guarantees about the future. Psychologically, this fosters mindfulness and realism in relationships. Emotional boundaries are particularly important to them. Marriage can blur lines between personal and shared emotional labor. Choosing not to marry allows them to maintain clearer boundaries, which supports emotional balance. These individuals often reject the idea that love must follow a single script. They psychologically separate love from institutions, believing that emotional authenticity does not require formal validation. Conflict management also plays a role. Some believe that relationships are healthier when people stay because they choose to, not because they are bound. This belief supports a psychological preference for voluntary, renewable commitment. In this context, not wanting marriage reflects a nuanced understanding of emotional needs. It is not a rejection of love, but a deliberate choice of how love is structured and sustained. Social pressure plays a powerful role in shaping how marriage is perceived, valued, and expected across different cultures. Individuals who choose not to get married often develop a strong psychological resistance to normative expectations. They are frequently aware that their choice challenges deeply ingrained social narratives, yet they consciously accept the emotional cost of being misunderstood in order to remain aligned with their internal values. From a psychological perspective, these individuals tend to question social scripts rather than internalize them automatically. Marriage is often presented as a universal milestone, symbolizing success, maturity, or emotional fulfillment. Those who reject this idea usually engage in critical thinking, asking whether these assumptions are truly grounded in human well-being or simply maintained through tradition and repetition. Many people who do not want to marry perceive marriage as a social institution rather than an emotional necessity. This distinction allows them to separate love, connection, and meaning from legal or cultural frameworks. Psychologically, they may believe that fulfillment is internally constructed and cannot be guaranteed by external structures, no matter how socially valued those structures may be. Nonconformity requires emotional strength. Choosing a life path that deviates from the norm often leads to subtle or overt social sanctions, such as intrusive questions, judgment, or exclusion. People who remain unmarried by choice frequently develop a strong internal validation system to counterbalance external doubt and criticism. Their values often emphasize authenticity over approval. Rather than seeking validation through socially recognized roles, they prioritize living in a way that feels honest and internally coherent. Psychologically, this alignment between values and behavior supports self-esteem and reduces internal conflict, even when external acceptance is limited. Some individuals are also critically aware of how marriage has historically functioned within systems of power, gender roles, and economic dependence. This awareness can shape a conscious decision to disengage from an institution they perceive as unequal or misaligned with their ethical beliefs. Their choice reflects moral reasoning rather than emotional detachment. Meaning, for these individuals, is often derived from contribution rather than status. Creative work, professional purpose, community involvement, learning, and exploration may provide a deeper sense of fulfillment than traditional milestones. Psychologically, their identity is built around what they create and contribute, not the roles they occupy. Social comparison is an unavoidable psychological challenge. Watching peers marry and follow conventional life paths can trigger moments of doubt or loneliness. However, people who choose not to marry often reframe success on their own terms, redefining fulfillment in ways that reflect personal growth rather than conformity. Many of these individuals develop life philosophies centered on impermanence, choice, and adaptability. Marriage, which symbolizes permanence and long-term certainty, may feel psychologically incompatible with a worldview that embraces change. For them, flexibility is not instability, but honesty about the evolving nature of human life. Despite widespread assumptions, many people who do not want to marry experience deep satisfaction and emotional richness. Their happiness is not postponed or conditional upon future milestones. Psychologically, this challenges the cultural belief that marriage is necessary for completeness, revealing that meaning can take many valid and fulfilling forms.